Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me to be part of the CODART Congress. My name is Imara Limon. I'm a curator of modern and contemporary art at the Amsterdam Museum. And I will briefly introduce the museum and my role in it, and give several examples of projects at our museum and at other institutions that urgently need our attention. So the Amsterdam Museum, as a city museum, represents and produces and collects the many histories and cultures of Amsterdam. With partners in the city, we organize relevant activities and exhibitions in several locations, always for as broad an audience as possible. My introduction to the Amsterdam Museum was when I was invited as a guest curator in 2016 for Black Amsterdam during the first Black History Month in the Netherlands. And next to the exhibition, I also organized the public program with new narrative tours, where we invited guest tour guides from outside the museum with perspectives that differed from the main museum narratives. Critical voices that pointed out opportunities where the museum could present a more inclusive point of view. And this was a very valuable way of working, a form that worked very well, and that we have now, 3 years later, developed as a multi-year research program with exhibitions and programming, and also an advising role to the museum board that works as a catalyst for becoming a more inclusive museum. It's not only to reflect anymore on exhibitions that are there, so people from outside the museum to have a critical voice and to look at the exhibitions, but it's also very important to initiate long-term change and museum policies and strategies that are being developed at the moment to ensure that this project is not just, and its philosophy is really strongly intertwined with the museum's core business. Of course, inclusion in its broadest sense regards age, class, gender, religion, and sexuality, and many more forms. But I will here focus in these examples on 4 different cases regarding cultural backgrounds, and it starts with 2 projects that are related to the Amsterdam Museum, and it include Old Masters. So these are impressions of the museum in case you haven't been there. And new narratives. And oh yes, one more thing I want to mention about the project, that it developed until a multi-year research project, but it's not yet done. It first started with the tours that we were dealing with, and before that, of course, the Amsterdam Museum has always been interested in participating from audiences, and yeah, it's not the end of what we want to do now. It's always continuing. The project that I want to talk about was an exhibition that we presented in 2017, Ferdinand Bol and Govert Flink, at the Amsterdam Museum and the Rembrandt House, curated by my colleagues Norbert Middelkoop and Tom van der Molen. And it was an exhibition with many masterpieces and a story about Bol and Flink as Rembrandt's master pupils. But Tom and Norbert also took up the challenge to consider Black presence in these paintings by Bol and Flink. And I was invited to contribute to the catalog and wrote a short essay about different functions of Black presence in 17th century painting. In the exhibition, a short video was also included by historian Carwan Vattablak, talking about Black presence in order not to let this go unnoticed. And the new narrative tours that we organized through the exhibition showed also this angle, and it showed that it draws people's attention. It's not the only important part of the painting, but it might draw in people who were not before interested in this form of art. And there is surprisingly little research about this topic, I realized, and I keep finding references to this one project, Black is Beautiful, in 2008, an amazing project by Esther Schreuder and many other people about Black people in art from the Low Countries, with an exhibition also in 2008. But with this research, I also mean theoretical and interdisciplinary work on the implications of showing and interpreting these artworks today. How to translate the fact that Black people in paintings were often not portraits, but just exoticized creatures that can only exist in these paintings because of their supporting role to the main white figures portrayed. How do we responsibly translate this fact without again reproducing the inequality that is contained in such a worldview? And the complexity in our profession as curators of old masters is that we're often quite far removed from what could be another perspective. It's difficult to do it yourself, also for me. And I'm saying that because other perspectives often is filled in by focusing on black figures or drawing in different audiences, but I think it's much more complex than that. So I have 3 other examples to look at, and I would like to argue that we cannot and we will never be able to present other perspectives without close collaboration with the people and initiatives who have been demanding visibility and representation for a long time already. Another project is the Portrait Gallery of the Golden Age, since 2014 on view at a wing in the Hermitage Museum. So a few weeks ago, another image. A few weeks ago, one of the campaign posters was spray painted, as you can see here. It now says Portrait Gallery of the Bloody Stolen Age. And I want to stress that this is not an isolated incident. It's something that we regularly receive critique on about this presentation, and we know that by omitting a significant part of the story that we might not be so proud of, we continue to glorify only the successes of 17th century entrepreneurship. But 2014, when this presentation was made, is already a while ago, and today in the Netherlands we already live in a different context of rapid changes, and you might think twice now about a project with Golden Age in its title. Everyone will now think, is this a good idea? Can we do this? Won't we receive critique? Whatever you think about it. And if you want to be relevant to a broader audience, then especially, a golden age is not a golden age for everyone, not for my ancestors. Van der Helst. You might recognize this painting, now at the Rijksmuseum's main gallery. And a Dutch initiative called the Black Heritage Tours made this part of their route through the museum. And the first thing, I was part of this tour once, and the first thing that was mentioned entering this space is not Rembrandt's Night Watch right next to it, but this particular painting with the black figure in it that already caught the attention of the group before it was even mentioned. And in art historical terms, something like this might be marginal, but it's a question also of perception. Who decides what's relevant today? Who decides how to interpret heritage? I'll go through the examples very quickly because we have 12 or 13 minutes. The last example is from the Mauritshuis, a recent exhibition, a current exhibition actually, an attempt to become more inclusive. It's called Shifting Image in Search of Johan Maurits. It presents pieces from the 17th century collections together with iPads that you can swipe through and read different stories accompanying the works. So I would say that it's an important and brave step to include all these perspectives with an impressive lineup of critical thinkers who are involved, and to present a palace that was made of sugar cubes with a reference to the nickname of the building, as it is said to have been built from the earnings of the sugar plantations. But to be very critical also and a bit provocative, we are not there yet. Shifting a main and dominant narrative means radically taking a stand. Is it enough to invite people to give their opinion on your collections? I know that there's also ongoing research at the museum on the role of Johan Maurits in Dutch Brazil, but I wonder, is it really about Johan Maurits and his amount of guilt or involvement? We cannot keep separating the good from the bad. We need to take responsibility for the entire system that is built on successes that have been glorified out of proportion, so much that it overshadows the so-called dark pages of history that continue to be marginalized but still have a huge impact on social inequality in our societies today. And I hope that this discourse around these histories in the Low Countries rapidly evolves so that we know how to value heritage among generations in the future and not throw it away. Thank you.